Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome to our second event of the year with the Creative Writing Reading Series. I'm really excited tonight. First of all, because I'm here this time, and that's exciting for me. I wasn't able to make it last week, alas. But even more excited that we have a special guest from the community, Pam Blair, here tonight to read some poetry, talk about some work she does in the community, and to celebrate the spoken and written word. Pam Blair is a Elkhart, South Bend native, born artist, program assistant for the Kroc Institute for International Peace Studies at the University of Notre Dame, diversity co-facilitator on racial issues, a DJ Poetess, and founder of the Poetry Den. According to Michigan Women Leaders website, Pam grew up as an only child, and because of that, she became very creative. She was never bored. But after graduating high school, Pam attended art college, where she discovered some of her true loves. And then she had to leave that and take a full-time job, so it meant that all of her creative work had to be done in her off hours. Pam described it as like living a double life. For her, for Pam, art became like a lover. I can relate to that myself, and maybe some of you here as well, that times in your life where you have to find art in the crevices and cracks between everything else being demanded of you. As a way to share her love of poetry as well as her poetic voice, Pam began participating in open mic nights throughout the area. This helped Pam realize that there were no venues or events in the area specifically dedicated to poetry. So in 2012, Pam created the Poetry Den, a space where her friends could hang out and friends and strangers could share poetry. Originally hosted at Chicory Cafe, the Poetry Den then moved to Merriman's Playhouse at the Colfax Cultural Center, before ending up at its current location at the Indiana University South Bend Civil Rights Heritage Center, where it runs every fourth Sunday. The Poetry Den, Pam's vision was to provide a space for established poets to share their work, but also for new and emerging poets to share their work in a positive environment with like-minded others. A homage to Pam's early open mic night experiences. Pam's vision for the Poetry Den is to continue to expand its offerings and reach. One of the things that still pulls at her heart is Pam's hope to eventually be able to pay poets who share their work. The Poetry Den continues to expand today. For example, Pam has collaborated with the Snipe Museum for several events, and including the upcoming Art Words, November 10th. So put that on your calendar and keep your eyes peeled. As well, Poetry Den has gone to Goshen for the Riverbend Music Fest and facilitated mini poetry dens. Pam's future goals are to build a network of poets that can present at various events around the community and around the region. The Den attracts quite a diverse group of people, different ethnic backgrounds, religious beliefs, activists, feminists, people of all ages, slam poets, seasoned poets, published poets, people reading for their first time, people reading for their 50th time, and just people who just love poetry. The mission of the Poetry Den is to inspire, provoke, and motivate to create, which I understand is also Pam's mission. So please join me in welcoming here Pam Blair with a big round of applause.
I think that was the longest opening I've ever I was like, is he talking about me or somebody else? Yeah, thank you so much. First I want to say thank you to Roy and Paul and the Creative Writing Department for inviting me to be a part of your reading discussion tonight. So good to see you guys, especially those I haven't seen before, being on the other side of campus. Again, my name is Pam Blair. I do have a stage name, which is Poetic Melody. It's just because I've sung some of my pieces, and I like to sing, and so that's kind of how that name came about. But he's also, he's told you all that I'm a visual artist. I did visual art first. I've been doing art all my life, and I went to college at the Columbus College of Art and Design, where I studied graphic art and illustration. So that sounds like a good start to my TED Talk here. I would like to say that, I have not been a lifetime lover of poetry. I actually did not like poetry K through 12. I felt it took too much work for me to figure out what the writer was saying, and I was just like, can you just say this in layman's terms? But my love for poetry kind of stemmed out of pain, and it just kind of evolved from there into love and justice issues and all kinds of stuff. So that's kind of the pathway that I've gone since the very beginning. Most of my work is titled because it's the only way that I can find it. I probably have about maybe 150 poems now. A lot of my poems come from experience, worldviews, and real shower conversations that I have with myself. So, I've been published a few times in a few books, but I have not done my own book yet, so that's coming. So I'm just going to begin. It's kind of random, but I'm going to start with a piece that I usually introduce myself with, and it's called Truth. Who am I? I am creator, born from creation, breath of life, a mind of artistic imagination. Driven by passion, art of expression, I am your true craftsman. I am twisted words of truth, undocumented proof, and I give no excuse to what my pen might produce. My enthusiasm is to give you an eargasm of a whole lot of sarcasm, because it's the only time people really tell the truth. And they say the truth shall set you free, but what you fail to believe is that transparency has a warranty. So you expire quickly to lies, just so you can get by. Just so you can get by on American dreams, as it seems for things you can't really afford. Or furthermore, save for tomorrow, having no real credit in this life, unless you continue to borrow. So strapped for money that united we can't stand up for justice. So divided, we stand up for anything. Is our future even promising? When was the last time you built a castle in the sand? Where are the coloring books with crayons? And when did computers take over the art of drawing freehand? And when did Facebook become my new listening friend and inserting LOL behind comments keep me from the offend? Even now, your undivided attention I command. I am the potter on the wheel. To you my thoughts I conceal, a beautiful mind revealed. The pen, my sword, the paper, my shield. Through poetry, I can heal. That's that piece. This next piece I'd like to share with you is called I Have Nothing to Say. I have nothing to say, but I have so much to say. I want you to hear me, but you would need to listen closely. I want you to love me, but that requires you to trust me. I want you to believe in me, but that requires faith. Fear-embraced bias must erase. I want my words to invade your imagination, bring forth desired thought, and reveal revelation. I want you to walk in my shoes, but that requires you to untie, unzip, and remove your boots. I really just want some peace. Breathe in and release. Because at the end of the day, I have nothing and everything to say. This next piece I want to share with you is called Free Spirit. And there was a gentleman that used to come to the Poetry Den in the very beginning. And he was just so deep. I don't know that any of us really knew what he was talking about. But he always went over the 5 minutes that I asked, you know, my poets. So I always had to reel him in. But he was kind about it, and he kept coming back, so that was good. He could take you know, some discipline and still want to be a part of the Poetry Den. And he also started bringing his dad. But he, I mean, just a brilliant guy, and he just got involved in, you know, he had some addiction problems, and he died at the age of 27. And yeah, we did a tribute to the Poetry Den, did a tribute to him because he was with us a long time. But I wrote this poem called Free Spirit, and it was for him. Social yet a loner, a hearty laugh and a sense of humor, full of life with a soul that's famished, searches for destiny in a world of authentic. They are springtime in a thunderstorm, a sky that displays double rainbows, a bird trapped in a cage of an open door. A free spirit sitting on the edge of a white picket fence with expectations that prohibits the American dream from being accurate. A beautiful mind resides in the heart of the conflicted, and superheroes become poets with magical lyrics. Imagine sign language in a heavy metal bar, and fireflies examined through clear mason jars, mimicking dark skies filled with a symphony of stars. A free spirit with creativity that's limitless, while the hourglass squeezes sand through tiny spaces, and life counted in years feels more like minutes. That's a tribute to Sean Christensen. Yeah, I meant to say that, by the way. If you hear something you like, you can snap or say ooh-wee or say that again for the people in the back. As was mentioned, we do partner with the Stein Museum, and a lot of times they'll have art pieces, and they'll ask us to write a poem to one of the pieces, which seems easy, but it's not always easy. And so this one that I wrote was to a Georgia O'Keeffe painting, which was odd because usually she does like these big flowers, and this was just like lines and smoke. But it intrigued me to write something about it, so it's called Smoke and Mirrors. Gray and blue skies, clouds that form images that then cry. Oxygen can't supply when birds fly too high. Smoke and mirrors, past objects are closer than they appear. Clouded visions of things we can't repair, but you cared enough to listen to my despair. Morning showers spark quiet conversations, a steamy bathroom with images I envisioned. Uncertainty can mask itself as fears, much like the smoke and mirrors. Dreaming while awake is reality. Every mirror presents its vanity. Fame and fortune are not exempt from calamity. Its deception can mess with your sanity. I've tripped on life's mistakes, looked into the eyes that are opaque, blown smoke from my lips' escape, used a parachute as a cape. I stand firm with the S on my chest, a superhero one might suggest. My life at bird's eye view seems unfamiliar. Could it all just be smoke and mirrors? This next piece, I have a couple pieces that I really like to read a lot, and it almost seems redundant sometimes, but they're some of my favorites, and I always tell people that come to the Poetry Den that They're like, oh, I read that last time. I'm like, there's always someone that didn't hear. So, read it again. But this one is called Life and Its Complexity. It was written shortly after, do you guys know who Robin Williams was? So this was written shortly after his passing. His passing struck me interestingly. He was a guy that made us laugh all the time, and so that's kind of how this came about. A blind man's canvas does not stereotype in color. It absorbs each tone with a brushstroke, one after another, until it creates unity. Unity that comes with sincerity, a place for clarity and solidarity. Intertwined with grace, a different perspective of reality and race. And this race is so fast-paced, dreams have been shuffled into how I get my next hustle, while money has become the new international version of the gospel. My mama always said, everything that glitters ain't gold, and Lord knows why suicide resides in those that make people laugh for a living, while depression inside creates a lynching. Life in its complexity, truth in its infidelity, justice in its immorality, Christianity in its popularity, and peace. Peace has no amount of gratuity. But then there's love. The phantom in my opera, the beauty in my beast, who sings the sound of music only dream girls seek, while raisin in the sun. I got smoke and thoughts, gunpowder on my lips, words like bullets to inject these lyrical rhymes into open minds, and anyone who might be spiritually inclined to hear me. The two most important times in life, the day you were born and the day you figured out why. At least that's what Mark Twain said, and it made real good sense in my head, so why not share? But at the end of the day, the sun will reach its hand out to the moon. Ocean's waves will dance to an orchestra's tune. Seashells will come ashore as the Sandman prepares to confess his love once more until she stays in life's complexity. Woo! Right. When I was working at St. Mary's, I was only 10 months working there, and in the summertime, I had the opportunity to do art with some of the cities at an urban community center called the Tolson Center, which they were going to tear down, and the community came together and just raised an abundance amount of money, and now it's getting a whole brand new building, which is freaking amazing. But I would spend hours trying to figure out an activity and making sure it worked, and I wanted to do a Dreamcatcher with them. And I spent so much time, YouTube clips, and just watch it on YouTube, and I get ready to do it on YouTube, and it's a catastrophe. So, while I was trying to do this in order to be able to show them, this poem came about, and it's called Dreamcatcher. The origins of my dreams are Native American nightmares. Sorry. My thoughts are caught in the web of now, then, and what could be. Its representation is the circle of life, deliberations that take flight, and the feathers resemble the cage where the bird once sang. A web of trapped dreams are nothing more than distorted movie scenes. A day in the life of routine, good versus bad are now caught between. My worries creep into my room like little Bo Peep looking for her sheep that I'm counting so I can sleep. Dreamcatcher catches debris, the simplicity of one's cultural ancestry. Whether the spider on the web that preys, or the knees that kneel down to pray, the head on which the pillow it lays searches for a spiritual place.
Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream. Make him the cutest that I've ever seen.
That's that piece. This next piece I want to share with you is called Don't Wake Me. Have you all heard of the phrase, stay woke? That was popular, stay woke. Everybody was saying that. And one night I woke up and wrote this poem and went back to sleep. And yeah, it's called Don't Wake Me. Don't wake me, I don't want to stay woke. Because being woke means I take accountability for the issues that lie before me. Don't wake me. I'd rather stay asleep. For when my eyes are closed, I have an excuse to live in false realities. Don't startle me out of my sleep. I want to sleepwalk and pretend I don't see poverty, bigotry, a history of wrong thinking, and inequalities. And don't bother to set the alarm. It's my constitutional right to bear arms, deny death tolls while gun laws refuse to be reformed. Hypnotize me and tell me things will be great again. Let's play childhood card games. I declare war. The best 2 out of 3 wins. Sing me to sleep with my country, 'tis of thee. Tell me a bedtime story of the Statue of Liberty. Remind me of America's loyalty to immigrants and minorities. Please, let me stay asleep. Ignorance is bliss. A privilege I never had is a privilege I'll never miss. Let me continue to dream until dreams become visions, and visions cause revolutions, giving me a reason to wake up with coherence. Don't wake me. This next piece I'm going to share with you is called I Regret. And we were at a friend's house who had a famous book author. I can't remember her name now, but she was with us, and I got invited there along with my partner. And she asked a question to this author that was real sensitive, and kind of like, you know, she was tearing up while she's asking the question. And the author just kind of like blew her off. Like, it was so awkward. Like her response almost sucked all the air out of the room, because everybody's like, but no one said anything. And so that's what inspired this poem called I Regret. I regret my silence did not speak, and every ear bled from being seriously weak. I regret that I allowed your fame to make room for hurt and shame, and your advice so profane that left many feeling estranged. I regret your sensitivity was vague. I traded my glasses for shades. Not speaking up only conveyed I was afraid. I regret not being an advocate when those not willing to listen don't understand the first steps to being compassionate. I regret allowing all I know to be true continue to divide us instead of letting love unite us. I regret. This summer, I had the opportunity to go to Belize. A friend of mine was celebrating his 50th birthday, and we found tickets pretty cheap, and the place was already paid for. Well, it was paid for, we had to pay her back, but I had never been. I mean, I think this is probably the 3rd time I've been overseas, but the first 2 times were just London, and this time was like experiencing the Caribbean. And though extremely hot, I don't know, I just enjoyed being among the people. So this is where this piece came from. Customs and immigration, and I wonder if even I'm an alien when outside of the U.S. I had taken travel for granted. The number of times I showed my passport was unprecedented. All in the name of keeping individuals protected just 10 feet from the last check-in station. The melanin of skin and its splendor, the sun-kissed beauty of colors of amber, a fusion of cultures where everyone was originally from, I wondered. Though we understand the same language, we speak it differently, brilliantly, and inconsistently. The Caribbean Sea, a hot, savory, salted field retreat, lying on the shores of Belize, a tropical jungle where we inserted ourselves within the lives of the locals. Here, palm trees grow naturally. A man cuts a coconut with a machete. He assures me not to worry, but I do. And don't try this at home, it would be true. He explains the benefit of coconut has to my body, but I stared at his feet that looked as though shoes have never embodied. Along the boardwalk of vendors, the swampland, I envisioned myself centered, dripping with a forehead filled with sweat, the conservative things I was willing to forget. That's Belize. And I actually did think about like, what it would look like if I had an art gallery here among the locals, like a lot. As I was sweating, thinking, you must be crazy. Again, like I said, sometimes I like to do music with my poetry, and so this one is called The History of Beatnik Poetry. You guys hear that? So this just calls for a little bit of audience participation. So what I need for you to do is snap your fingers with me. The history of beatnik poetry. Youth like hippies in barrettes, black clothing, dark glasses, and turtlenecks. A true rebel kind of movement. In coffee shops, they gather and swarm, poetry about society, making them perform. Some with marijuana they identify. 21st doctors now keeping them high. Others will come and drown their sorrows in wine, listening to the intoxication of rhythm and rhyme. The southern roots of the island, Chicago and New Orleans, many whose memories are chosen. Armstrong, Holiday, Calypso, and Ellington. Coltrane, Marcellus, not to mention George Benson. A backdrop of rhythm and blues. Piano rapping, mesmerizing my earlobes. Big Daddy, oh, a cool cat. Get with it far out, I'm really digging that. That's jazz, y'all. Poetry pizzazz. That piece. I just have two more that I want to share with you. This piece, my church had asked some poets to do some poetry and also artwork. So there was a piece of artwork that went with this. And basically I had fused two faces together. But the poem that came to mind was called Corners. Corners, where two or more sides come together, where doubt and certainty rest on the ropes of expectancy, fighting to find belief. Belief that comes from all corners of your world, a world formed in the womb. From a small child, you absorb every word spoken and unspoken like a vacuum. Like a vacuum sucking up collected nouns. A soul so thirsty of, am I simply worthy? worthy of your love, worthy of your friendship, worthy of your religion, worthy of your courtship, worthy to be in the same space, worthy of even my own race, worthy of experiencing wealth, worthy of loving thine own self. And to thine own self, I'll be true. I won't let unattended corners turn dust into dust bunnies that actually stain my borders. Borders. A margin around the edge of something great. The me that no longer wants to masquerade. So from the corners I emerge, and the corners I escape. And that's that piece. And the last one I'll share with you, again, is another favorite. It's called The Mirror. And I wrote this piece, actually, to myself. Didn't know if I had enough time to read this, but yeah.
Read it, please.
Sensuous in your behavior, yet you waver to love because of fear. Fear that the past is too close to the present, and even though that shit is irrelevant, you can't see the future because you refuse to look in the mirror. A mirror you no longer smile in, for all you see is old wineskin because you've been drinking all the wrong words. Drunk on words that have destroyed your self-confidence, and the evidence is you have not yet claimed your inheritance. There is beauty in your eyes, and the beasts are the lies that try and fertilize seeds of unforgiveness lying on the inside. You see, in order to love another, one must discover your own sleeping beauty. Maybe become the author of the book, I Am Pretty. And I like myself. I like myself because of the image of who I was made, a creator who promised never to leave me, but as long as I wanted would stay. And I'll bathe myself in his blood that cleanses me from the stench of the day. A day that I will one day understand that church, family, and school weren't the only plan, but having dominion over my life, hopes, thoughts, actions, and dreams might help my fellow man. So when I look in the mirror, whom shall I fear? False accusations, manipulation, devastation, or do I start a revolution beginning with internal evolution when I look in the mirror? Thank you all for As was mentioned, you know, we do the Poetry Dinner every fourth Sunday of the month. We've done it for 10 years in the city. And really, in the beginning, it evolved around like, you know, the same people coming all the time, and then, you know, people have lives and move on or move or whatever. And now what happens is we just get a rotation of like new people, and then some people come and they go, and but it's actually just, it happens so organically that I just couldn't have dreamed it any other way. People are very supportive. I've known people to say, I've never read before in front of people, or I've only written one piece. So much they keep coming back, and then they end up being a featured artist because they wrote all these pieces. And so it's very welcoming, and I don't know, I just, I'll be honest though, like, and especially in the summertime, you know, when it rolls around, I'm like, oh my God, I'd rather be at the beach, what are we doing? But when I get there, I'm just like so glad to be there because I'm among people of like energy and that love poetry. And so sometimes the room will get a room like this, or it'll be a packed room. I just never can guess, and I stop being, you know, upset if, you know, if it's not a packed room, and just say it's whoever's there was supposed to be there for that time. But yeah, it's a great experience. It's wonderful to be at the Civil Rights Heritage Center. It has history there, and most of it is to be welcoming to all, and that's the same. It's the same heart as the poetry did. So it's a good marriage. But yeah, I don't know if anyone. Are you taking over from
Yeah,
here?
well, we've got some time for questions, if you want to
Sure.
field any questions, if anybody's got a, I was wondering if you might talk about, with the Poetry Den, how it works with the featured artists,
Okay.
and then the other parts, or how does it work?
So, when we started in the beginning, let me just go back to the reason that we definitely do it in that space and not in a coffee shop is because we want people to, you know why you came. You didn't come for coffee, you came to hear poetry. So it's on purpose. I don't do intermissions because I know people stick out in intermissions. I'm smarter than that. And so we just try to keep people engaged, and we don't do sign-ups ahead of time just because you sign up, things happen, you can't make it, and now I got this slide I'm trying to fill. So we just say sign up when you show up, and usually everybody gets a chance, an opportunity to share their work. Usually we have a featured artist come on about at least by like 7:15, and then do like 25 minutes, and then there's room for people to talk. Because I want to honor the space that I'm in, and George Garner, who's there with me, comes away from his family, and so I kind of want to honor the 2 hours that we're allowed there so he can go back home and be with his family. So we kind of, you know, have a kind of like regimen or, yeah. And people will say, hey, you want to read my poetry? No, just come to me. On the we have a Facebook page, and on the Facebook page it has its vision and its mission, and it's basically that we ask people not to use this as a platform to convert people or bash anybody. And I've only had to deal with that maybe once or twice in the 10 years. I think everybody kind of just knows what's happening. You mentioned also like one of our hopes, which is funny because I wrote that statement like a couple years ago for Michiana Women Leaders, and one of our hopes was to pay our featured artists. And this year, I just wrote this, letter and said, please give me money so I can pay my artists. And it was like literally 30 minutes later, like, yes, you have the money. I mean, it's so worth more than that, but we haven't been able to do that in like 9 years or 10 years, and so it's nice this year that I can put money in an envelope and send it with somebody who's prepared to share their work with us. I mean, there's lots of, that's a part of it's still a part of the mission. Another part of our mission is one time we had a young people's poetry den, and have young people come and actually share with their peers and get their confidence and to stand before people. I really can't tell you just how much, like I thought I was imagining things when I said, poetry, has helped save me, from a lot of stuff. But I've had some other artists that have said the same thing, and not prompted by me. But just the opportunity to be able to share your writings and have people, say, oh yeah, I know, I feel you on that, or talk to them afterwards. It's just, it's like church in a good way. And it doesn't require you to put any money in the offering. Sure.
I was interested in what you said about beginning as a visual artist and only later finding your way to poetry. And it sounds like it had something to do with certain themes that you finally saw represented in the poetry you found your way to. So I wonder if you could just talk a little bit about that. What happened that eventually turned you into a poet?
So I was going through a divorce. And I had and it was hurtful, it's extremely painful, especially when you love someone and they want to move on, or, they have no interest in being married to you anymore. And it just broke my heart. And so I've always wanted to journal, and I have probably about 10 journals at home that only have like 2 pages written in. And I think the part of that was because I spend so much time, you know, oh, did I spell that word right? You know, I'm looking in the dictionary, now I'm distracted, and I found that poetry was a journal for me. And so the first poem I wrote was called Divorce. And then the second poem that I wrote was called A Second Chance, and my father was going through, my father had a heart transplant, and he was in the hospital 5 months waiting for a heart transplant. And, you know, had a previous, you know, while he was there, he had a surgery to help his heart pump before he got a new heart. And so it was traumatic. I mean, those were like really hard times because it was in Fort Wayne and I was here, and I had a 2-year-old, or I had a 1-year-old actually. And so driving back and forth there and getting tickets. And not being able to afford to pay the tickets and still drive, it was just a mess, you know, it's just, and so that's, you know, him getting another heart was a big thing. And I met so many families who had relatives, you know, they had, because in the intensive care ward there was like several people waiting for a heart. And so they get to know one another, you know, and you get to know their families and stuff. And it was like, it was, you know, because you saw people actually get a heart, which is a major, big deal. And then they don't come out of surgery. And you gotta like look at these families that you've been talking to the whole time. And yeah, so it was pretty traumatic. So it was that, and then, I don't know, then we moved to like love poems. I have a piece that's called I Want That Kind of Love that I wrote, and I've done it at weddings. Matter of fact, I might have been asked to do it at my own wedding, but yeah, that piece I did a line of, and then the justice piece hung around for a long time. So, yeah. So that's kind of like how we got there. But I'm still, my first love is always visual art. I still do it. I was down at Art Week this summer. Sold a lot of paintings. So, yeah. So it's fun to do that. I don't have enough time in the day to do the things that I'm doing. Yes.
Of all the pieces that you wrote, which one was the hardest for you?
What one was the hardest
Yeah.
to write?
Yeah.
I want to say life and its complexity. Yeah. Because I had a whole lot of things I wanted. I had a whole lot of mixed feelings about that. And I mean, the words came, but it was like, it was probably, it meant like something. And the poems that I actually have memorized, they're like songs to me, like I can hear them in a song. So it's easy to kind of, because I've sang for so many years, to remember that. But sometimes poems come super easy, and sometimes they just kind of lie dormant. And then I might look at it again and go, oh, maybe I should finish that. But yeah, and a lot, you notice like a lot of my poems like rhyme. I used to really beat myself up about that. I was like, oh, I don't want to rhyme all the time. I want to do what they do. And then you know. But it's funny because I remember telling a really good friend of mine that's a poet that, you know, she was in all of like what I did, and I was like, do you? People love the way that you read your poetry. You don't have to do like what I do. And so I have to remember to tell myself that. That the way that I write poetry is the way that I write poetry. So it is what it is. Rhymes are not rhymes, or yeah. It's nice to be able to be authentic in your own self. So yes.
In that same vein, do you have a favorite poem, or do you find that they're kind of like your children? You don't want to pick one?
The Mirror is a favorite poem of mine. Yeah, The Mirror is probably mine. Yeah. Out of all of them, like, I have lots of them. I mean, I do have lots of them, but that's a staple. I read that probably everywhere I go, because it's in the crowd, and I know it really well, and I believe in it. So I think that's where the favorite poems come from, if it's something that you really like, I can talk about it right off, you know, like if I was talking about my kid, you know what I'm saying? And so those become like really meaningful poems. Not that all of them are meaningful, but yeah, there's certain ones that live close. So that one, Life Next to Complexity, and Truth. Those three poems are really my favorite, but the Mirror being the first.
How do you make your poems sound like songs?
Wow. So I mean, I've been singing in church choirs since I was like 12. I don't know if you ever notice, like sometimes when you're listening to the music, you can almost know what's coming next. You know what I mean? Like you already know where they're gonna go or when they're gonna end, and so that's kind of how I write sometimes. It's just kind of like, yeah, like I don't. It just kind of comes naturally because I kind of know how it should sound like, you know, because of how music kind of plays itself out. I do have another one that I did for a long time. It's called I Want to Dream, and yeah, that one used to be my super favorite. But it was to music, and so I really like doing poems to music because it allows me the freedom to do the two things that I like. So yeah, I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah.
Since you've had poems that kind of stick in your set or like come back in your set after some years, have you ever gone back to one of those pieces and felt like, oh, maybe something needs to change in it? Or have they always just felt like that?
I have. The second one that I did was I Have Nothing to Say. I changed probably half of that poem. Yeah, so I've gone back to it and changed it. Most times I don't like to do that, especially if it's a poem that I finished. Sometimes I just leave it like it is. I don't try to go back and redo it. I let my friends, my good friends, get bombarded with my poetry a lot. I text them,
That's how it should be.
yeah, read this. And my partner, as soon as she wakes up, I go, listen to this poem. So yeah, but usually if it's something that I've written and I like, I just say let it go. I do that with artwork too. Like I do what's called colored canvas. It's kind of like wine and canvas, if anybody's heard of paint night or something like that. But I have a little business it's a private thing, so I come to your house and do stuff. And I paint with people, and they relax, and it's just amazing how people are relaxed doing that. But, you know, I'll see people really like, oh, I just had to say, hey, just let it go. You did that because you're going to mess it up. The more that you keep messing with it, let it go. Once you got in there, just move on. So I use that same kind of thinking when I do poetry.